I'm a little frustrated right now because the stream that I had planned got killed by YouTube. I don't know what happened. It's like as soon as I started it, there was an error. And so basically all of the metadata work to add the keywords and the demographics of who this video is for and what it's about so that YouTube helps the right people find it is just gone. And now I don't even know if I should make this video because now since YouTube killed the stream that I had planned, this video is just going out to my general audience. Whereas the one that I set up was set up to target people looking for discussion on the Charlie Kirk incident, people looking for political discussion, so that hopefully my viewers who don't want to hear anything about that wouldn't see this video. So now I don't know what to do. To recap, the video that I set up with all of the metadata to tag people searching for Charlie Kirk got killed as soon as I started it. As soon as I started the stream, there was an error and it won't let me go back to that stream. So starting a stream from scratch, YouTube has no information who to serve it to, what it's about. I don't even know if I should do it at this point, but I feel like I'm just going to do it anyway, record it, go home, plug in the keywords and the metadata that I had into the other one, and just roll with it. But it is interesting that anytime I do anything or try to do anything semi-political or controversial, somehow the video gets demonetized, or in the case of this stream, the stream got an error and then I had to back out of the stream and it was like gone. So there's a lot of lost work there, but I'm just going to get into it and record this. And then when I get home, I'm going to retag it with all the proper metadata. But guys, I am here today to talk about something I don't even want to talk about. I don't want to talk about this Charlie Kirk incident, but I feel like I have to go on the record sometimes when we have these type of monumental events in history. I think that it's important to talk it out and get our points of view on the record, especially when we have no idea where we could go from here, based on what's happening now in our country. And I want to talk about that. Again, I don't want to talk about this, but I feel like I have to get these thoughts off my chest. And also kind of out of a sense of rebellion, because I think that whoever was behind this, what they don't want us to do is talk. They don't want us to have rational, productive dialogue as a community about how we are going to solve these problems that affect all of us. Whoever you are, even if you try to be apolitical, this stuff affects us all, and we have to talk about it. Again, I'm going to say this one more time for the sake of the stream, but the stream that I had scheduled for this got canceled by YouTube. I don't know how. So I'm doing this stream from scratch. I'm sorry if you are seeing this and you don't want to see it. I talked about why that happened in the beginning of the video, so I won't rehash it. Let me get into this. To start off, I want to say that I feel bad for Charlie, because even though I think he was a very bad person, which we will discuss, I believe Charlie Kirk was a very bad person. He was only 31 years old. He had decades left to change his mind and form new opinions. And true liberals, people who believe in liberal ideology, we don't advocate violence except for self-defense. We don't advocate vigilante justice. We believe in trials, evidence, and juries. That creates justice. What happened to Charlie wasn't justice. My heart goes out to his kids, his little kids, and I wish that we as a nation would take gun violence and unity more seriously. That being said, and I want to say clearly that I hope the assassin is brought to justice. I hope whoever did this is brought to justice. I am still not going to miss Charlie. And I want to say that it's normal. It's normal for people to feel some sense of relief when a person who actively causes harm to them or other innocent people is no longer able to cause that harm. Two things can be true at the same time. I feel bad this happened to Charlie, but I feel a million times worse for the countless school children murdered in cold blood. And I won't miss the evil and irrational fear that Charlie spread on a daily basis. Charlie Kirk literally fomented hate. He once said, quote, "I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made up, new age term and that it does a lot of damage." That's how Charlie viewed empathy for other human beings. Even so, I still have empathy for Charlie. He was too young, naive, and ignorant to truly understand what he was saying. And for that, I feel bad for him. So many people that Charlie profited off of did truly believe that he knew what he was talking about, and they listened to him as an authority figure. They listened to somebody as an authority figure who said, "I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made up new age term that it does a lot of damage." That's the type of dangerous ignorance that some of these people are teaching the lost boys that follow them. Charlie also said one time about innocents who die in political shootings, quote, "It's worth it. Some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. That is a prudent deal." That was on April 6, 2023 at a Turning Point USA event. It's worth it. Some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. That's a prudent deal. Y'all, please be careful pretending that karma isn't real. I think that there is something to karma, and maybe not. And in my opinion, karma is nothing to play with. And rereading Charlie's quote, "It's worth it. Some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment." It's the it's worth it part that shows that same sociopathy that his quote on empathy also shows. His quote on empathy, "I can't stand the word empathy. I think it's a made up new age term that does a lot of damage." These are the words of this man, y'all. And I'm saying don't play with karma. And I have a hard time with karma because now, what do we think all of the little innocent kids in the school shootings had some kind of bad karma? No. So I don't know how to process karma, but I know that you don't play fast and loose with words relating to the violence of innocent people. You can't use words so flippantly when you have one child listening to you, let alone millions, as Charlie did. And this is why I will never, ever, ever wish harm on anyone. There's almost nobody that I dislike in this world more than Donald Trump. And my only wish for him is that he face a jury of his peers and a therapist. I only believe in violence when it comes to self-defense or defending the life of somebody else from an active threat. And that's it. Those are the times when violence is called for. Now, why does it matter what bad things that Charlie said if I already admit that he didn't deserve this? So if I want to lead off saying, hey, nobody deserves this, then why am I then going to bring up just, man, I got a stack of evil things that this man said. Trust me, I've got a whole list of notes. But those first two quotes really say it all, man. He said, don't have empathy and live with the gun deaths, you know, and then what happened to him yesterday. It's some dark, dark foreshadowing. Okay, so why does it matter what Charlie said if I'm admitting that he didn't deserve this? It matters because of how the leaders and many members of the right/MAGA are reacting to this event without even knowing who the assassin was. There are countless people on the right calling for indiscriminate violence against Democrats, which is literally insane and truly demonstrates who is who as people in society. One side is using Charlie's death to justify violence, and the other side is actively looking to take action against violence and advocate for peace for all people, including immigrants, LGBTQ, every single race of people in our community, everybody. And that's why people like Charlie hate us, because we want equal rights for everyone, while they only want rights for people who submit to their cult of hate and irrational fear. It matters because the countless school children and people like the old folks in the African American church down in Charleston, the Democratic senators in Minnesota who were murdered in cold blood in their homes, Paul Pelosi, who many on the right wing made fun of after he was brutally beaten at his house. They don't mention, nobody on the right wing mentions or cares about any of these people. They don't think twice about them. They don't mention them when the events happen. They don't say they feel bad. They don't do all of the grandstanding you see Democrats doing right now, disavowing all violence. They just ignore it when it's their side who does the violence. And none of those innocent victims spent their entire lives fomenting hate and fear the way Charlie did. So you want us to feel bad for Charlie, but you guys don't mention any of the kids, any of the innocent old folks killed down in Charleston, on and on that I mentioned, who didn't spend their life riling people up, advocating violence, saying the other political party was an enemy who needed to be gone to war with. So it's hypocritical gaslighting for MAGA and right-wing people to pretend that Charlie is the only victim of gun violence they care about. And that's what I can't watch and not speak out on. They are using this man's death to stir up more violence. And sadly, they have no sense of the irony. MAGA cannot say that liberals are the violent ones when 75 to 90% of all political violence is committed by right-wing people. They can't mourn Charlie and never say a word about any of these other truly innocent victims, none of whom spent every day of their life stirring up division and hatred against others the way Charlie did. They can't do all of that and still want to be considered serious, credible, honest people by the decent and honest members of our society. So that's what I want to focus on. Who is using this event to foment more violence, and who is advocating peace for all human beings? Look at all these people here. Every different kind of class, background, age. Man, this stuff can happen anywhere. Nowhere is safe. No one is safe. Who is using that to increase the fear, increase the violence? And who is using that to say something's got to change? Pay attention closely, and please don't allow yourself to be used as a pawn for billionaires who do not care about us to get bigger tax breaks. I'm holding all credible possibilities in my mind without trying to guess what happened before all the evidence comes in. And before we talk about different things that could have happened, I'm just going to say that mental illness is a given for any of these scenarios. Whoever it was, of course they were mentally ill. We don't even have to talk about that. It's barely worth mentioning, other than if we as a country provided everyone with mental health that they needed, we would undoubtedly have fewer of these events, which means untold number of innocent lives spared. Here are the possibilities the way that I see it. A liberal who hated Charlie Kirk, definitely a possibility. MAGA, for many reasons we can get into. Or a greater conspiracy by the administration to make people stop talking about what's that in the news? What's that word that starts with the E and ends with the Epstein? You know. Now, again, I keep any rational possibility on the table until the facts come in. I don't have to sway myself one way or the other. I could say It could have been a liberal. It could have been a right-winger. It could be a conspiracy. The conspiracy could be from the United States administration. The conspiracy could be from an organization within the United States. It could be from a foreign country's various different types of organizations. Various different foreign companies would benefit from sowing this kind of hate and division among our people. I want to talk with you guys. As I said at the beginning of this stream, I set up a stream with all of the relevant tags about Charlie Kirk, and that stream got canceled as soon as I started it. And why that's important is when you front load a stream with tags, it tells YouTube who to show the video to. When you just start a video live, it just shows it generally to your viewer base, which is what I didn't want to do. I wasn't trying to show this to everybody who just normally watches my channel, because a lot of people just watch this channel for recreation, for football, for hiking, for views around Boulder. So I'm still caught off guard by that stream being canceled, and I can't stop thinking about it because it was going to bring outside new people into this channel to have this discussion with. And also, when you start a view from scratch, the algorithm looks at it more sus. Like, hey, what are you doing that you didn't prepare for ahead of time? You didn't give me any tags. You didn't give me a title. You didn't tell me who to show this to. I don't really know about this live stream. But, the option was going home and, being defeated, not doing it tonight, or just saying, we're going to film this and I'll go back and add the tags later and we'll see. But I just want to go on the record to mainly say these things. You can feel sorry that what happened to Charlie Kirk happened to him and still not miss him as a human being. That's normal. Nobody deserves that to happen to them. However, when you compare all of the innocent children who lost their lives in these shootings, that did not spend day in and day out making money off sowing hate and division, I'm going to hold my sadness for those kind of victims. Charlie Kirk caused real damage and harm in society, but he still had time to redeem himself. And that's whoever shot him does not subscribe to liberal ideology, because liberals believe in debate and democracy and justice, trials, evidence, juries, not vigilantism. And I came here to say, because of how I see right-wing politicians, right-wing leaders, right-wing people in general calling for war, like, without seeing the irony of thinking that what happened is so horrible, now we want to be even more horrible. That's crazy. And you have to start questioning what's really going on when people's actions don't align with their words. They're saying that liberals are the party of violence, but ask ChatGPT, ask Grok, ask an AI you trust, go to the FBI's database, go wherever there are indisputable facts, and you will see. Let me just bring up an image so I don't misquote. Over the last decade, far right compared to far left violence is 19-1, y'all. It's 19 far right instances of violence for every one instance of liberal violence. These are just the facts. I don't want violence against anybody, but you can't have the side committing 19 times more violence, saying, oh, we don't even know who the shooter was. If it was a liberal, it's still so lopsided to say that liberals are the party of violence. Instantly, there's ignorance involved, there's cult brainwashing involved, there's dishonesty involved. Whatever it is, it's not the truth. And we as a society have to be able to get past the things that aren't true. Like, we're just going to deal with this by saying liberals are the violent ones. No, they're not. Liberals are the ones right now saying, what can we do to stop this? Far and away. far and away on the right, they're saying, go to war against all Democrats. And I just needed to document this, to go on the record, to say that don't let yourself be gaslit. If you are a liberal, if you are a Democrat, stand strong in your principles, because we want equality and justice and liberty for every human being on earth. No matter what color you are, no matter what race you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter what political party you are, the liberal ideology wants a fair and equal footing for everyone. Immigrants, LGBTQ, all races, all socioeconomic statuses. That's what liberals want. We don't spend all day talking about, let's look at some of these Charlie quotes, because you got to understand who this man was to understand how crazy it is that his side now wants to act like they're the victims. I hear you, TJ. And TJ, I didn't mean for you to see this video. I started a stream that targeted people looking for this topic. And when I started it, YouTube said that there was an error, canceled the stream, and it was gone. So I had to start a new stream from scratch in the wild. And when you do that, I can't put in the appropriate hashtag. So I talked about that in the beginning of the video. I'm sorry. I didn't want those of you who don't want to see this topic to see it, but I decided to go ahead and make the video anyway, because the alternative was just going home and not making a video. So that being said, I'm still going to read some of these Charlie quotes because they're relevant. Charlie said, happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. These are the type of things that Charlie said. Charlie said, if I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? Charlie said, reject feminism. Submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge. Charlie said, America was at its peak when we halted immigration for 40 years and we dropped our foreign-born percentage to its lowest level ever. We should be unafraid to do that. And it's just simply not true. Spreading that to millions of young people and making them believe that that's true is evil. There's really no other word for it. Again, he did not deserve what happened to him. Two things being true at the same time. He didn't deserve what happened to him. I'm still not going to miss him because of these quotes that I'm reading to you. The American Democratic Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love when America becomes less white. Y'all, these are a snippet. TJ, yeah, I did. What do you want to talk about it? Did you see that the person who shot Charlie Kirk was a white person? Do you see that the person who shot the 2 Democratic senators in Minnesota was a white person? Did you see that the man that attacked Paul Pelosi with the hammer was a white person? Did you see that the kid who shot the old folks in the black church in Charleston was a white person? What are we talking about? And I'm being serious with you, man. I'm here to have this conversation. But we've got to keep the facts straight. We've got to stay in reality. I will stay in reality with you and talk about this. If my original video would have been able to go live, it would have brought a lot more people in, because all of the hashtags, TJ, it's cherry picking. Like, what are you trying to say though, TJ? Like, what are you trying to say? Because it's really sad that it's common when these acts of violence happen in public that nobody steps in to help. They pull out their phones and they film. And that's plenty of white people have done that. I don't understand how you can make it about race when it was a white dude the FBI is looking for that shot Charlie Kirk. And one of Charlie Kirk's main things that he was a racist. So you would almost expect that he would set off a troubled member of a marginalized community before a troubled member of the white community. I 100% disagree that black on black violence is worse. I don't think you could find any facts to support that, but we can ask ChatGPT right now. Like, that's what I like to do, is use ChatGPT as a referee. So I'm going to plug that into ChatGPT 5 in a second, and we'll see what it says. If you want to bring another AI to the table, if you want to point me towards facts, I can pull it up on my other phone. We can talk about it, but I think you are buying into propaganda that is not true. White on white crime, as far as I know, is far more likely than black on white crime. Charlie also said the great replacement strategy, which is well underway every single day in our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. These are the types of things he was talking about every day, you know, along with the quotes of saying that he thinks empathy. All right, TJ, hey, love Life in Prime Time, love to you. Let's talk with TJ, because I'm here for the discussion, TJ. I'm here to listen to what you're saying, okay? I hear you. And I'm going to even reread your post so I don't misquote you. You say black on black violence is far worse. Black on black violence, not even black on white violence. So, okay, let's plug it into ChatGPT and see what it says. Let's see. And if you want me to use a different AI, let me know, because I see AI as a referee in these discussions. Because if you just come from the channels you watch, and I come from the channels I watch, which I watch every channel, because I'm a person who thinks it's the billionaires against the working class. That's what I think. And again, two things can be true at the same time. I still vote Democrat because, take skin cancer and brain cancer, for instance. We could say that they're both cancer, right? But which one are you going to want to have? Everybody knows if you got to choose between skin cancer and brain cancer, you're going to choose to have skin cancer, because it's going to give you more time to make a comeback. In the same way, I look at the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. I look at the Republican Party as brain cancer, because look at Donald Trump has been advocating violence his entire political career. Literally, it's what he's known for. He glorifies violence that plays to his base, and he clutches his pearls, you know, at the slightest violence that attacks his base. And there's no consistency. You know, when Paul Pelosi got attacked with a hammer, him and his sons laughed. They thought it was funny. But if we dare laugh, and I would never laugh at something like this happening to Trump, who I really, I try to not say the word hate, because I have empathy, compassion, and love for, I think everybody with the right therapist, with the right conversation, with the right experiences, can be unlocked to be a good person. Even people that I think are almost irredeemable, like Trump, I still wish nothing but a conversation, the right conversation on those people. And if they do harm to people, then I wish them to face a jury of their peers. That is what justice is. All right, TJ, what about the prison population? It's majority black and Hispanic. I don't think that's true either. So we're going to go into ChatGPT for TJ, because I think TJ has a lot of misinformation. And if nothing else on this stream, we can go through some of these points that TJ has been told, and let's see TJ, let's see where the facts lie. The first claim you made is that black on black violence is far worse. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT. I'm going to do it with voice so you guys can hear it. Give me 1 second here to get it set up. TJ, if I phrase your question wrong, just let me know. I'll rephrase it and ask it. I'm going to ask it, is black on black violence far worse than white on white violence? Okay? Now, we can talk for a second while I'm using ChatGPT thinking mode So it takes a little longer, but that means it searches the internet. It uses, the smartest version of its algorithm to be as accurate as possible. So it takes a little longer to get an answer, but they're much more accurate. It will cite its sources. It will have links to the information. And so that's why we're going to do it that way. Dennis, hey man, always much love to you, brother. I appreciate you. Appreciate all of you being here. TJ, I appreciate you not liking when I talk politics, yet still being here to bring your point of view in a respectful way. You haven't been disrespectful. You are saying the things that you believe to be true, that you believe make my argument wrong. And we're going to go through these things. We're going to talk about them if you want to be here. As you can see, ChatGPT is still thinking. So in this mode, it does a lot of research. I asked it, is black on black violence far worse than white on white violence? So that's the question that we're asking. TJ, I love freedom of speech also, and I respect you as well. And I think what all of us can agree that whoever committed this act, they don't want us to talk rationally. Somebody is trying to whip us into a frenzy. Somebody's trying to make us forget our common humanity. Look around me. Look at all these families. Look at these kids. You hear the dogs barking. Somebody wants to turn all of this potential unity and community into a powder keg. And whatever type platform you have, please be a part of not letting that happen. Whatever you believe, if you believe in the common humanity of all people, if you believe in the unalienable rights of all people that are supposed to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if you believe in love and liberty, which is what this channel is about, I want love and liberty for all people, because those are the two things, if you think about it, every human on planet Earth desires for themselves. They desire love and they desire liberty, the ability to do whatever they choose to do that doesn't diminish the liberty of other people. All right, TJ, SCO buffs tomorrow for sure. And tomorrow, we might do a live stream for the game, and it's going to be none of this. It's going to be, we can switch modes as well. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about a heavy topic today, and we can press pause to enjoy college football, and we can do both. And we don't have to exclude either one, and we can be more whole members of our community that way, because it's all tied together. And you guys know that. You guys know that it's all connected. Let me see. ChatGPT's got an answer for me to read you guys. Life in Primetime says, I appreciate you, Life in Primetime. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Let's read. Okay, TJ, I hope you're still here. The short answer is no. And I'm going to read you the whole answer. But just so you know, I'm not making anything up. And when I read this, you're going to be able to tell it's the robot's words. It's not mine. But I ask the thinking version, the research version of ChatGPT, is black on black violence far worse than white on white violence? As you said, TJ, short answer, no. Violent crime is mostly intraracial for everyone. In the NCVS 2012 to 2015, most white victims were offended by whites, 57%, and most black victims by blacks, 63%. Overall, about half of violent incidents were intraracial, and both white on white and black on black violence fell 79% since the mid-90s. Homicide shows the same pattern. When the offender's race was known in 2019 single victim, single offender cases, 79% of white victims were killed by white offenders and 89% of black victims by black offenders. In other words, both groups mostly suffer violence from people of the same race. What does differ is the per capita homicide rate. CDC data shows black Americans, especially black males, experience much higher homicide victimization rates, e.g. black male firearm homicide rate 52.9 per 100,000 in 2021. Rates dipped slightly in 2022 but remained elevated versus 2019. That is a rate problem, not a uniquely black on black phenomenon. The bottom line, calling out black on black violence as if it's uniquely bad is grossly misleading. Most violence is same race for everyone because people offend where they live and who they're around. The real gap is in overall homicide rates, a completely separate issue tied to concentrated disadvantage, segregation, and gun exposure, not in some special propensity for interracial violence. So, TJ, it's just not true. It's just not supported by facts. If you want me to rephrase the question or ask a different question, I'm down to get to the bottom of it with you, because we need to correct the misinformation that people like Charlie Kirk are spreading. Because think about why someone would want you to believe that. Anytime anytime somebody's trying to persuade you that some group of people, through some intrinsic characteristic, in other words, not a life choice that they made, not something about their character, not something that they've done, not who they are, but how they were born makes them bad. Think about why somebody would want you to see somebody that way. There's always a control, a power, a financial motive between trying to turn, divide and conquer. It's Machiavelli. It goes back as far as our written history as a political strategy. We've got to be seeing through that in 2025, y'all. We have to. TJ, I don't see how we're both right. You're going to have to be more descriptive, because I feel like what I just read, like, give me a love all people. TJ says love all people for who they are, not what they are. Exactly. So you can't say that and then also say that black people are intrinsically more violent than white people. It's just not true. You want me to look up the prison populations now? But if we even, before I even ask the question about prisons, we're instantly going to bring in the fact that cops patrol low income areas, minority areas where people don't have the resources to get lawyer, where drug abuse is a known problem, where you can pick up, people for petty crimes and write a lot of tickets without exposing yourself to the worst offenders of the community. So, like, can we just agree that poor education and poverty tend to foment violence? Can we agree that when people, and I include in education having love in your life, because how are you really supposed to learn about the world if you don't feel like anybody loves you? So if you've got a kid coming from a place they feel like nobody loves or care about them, how's that person going to be educated? And failing to educate any human being is a very dangerous thing, because we know what humans are capable of good, and we know what they're capable of bad. And a good education teaches empathy. Whereas Charlie Kirk was saying empathy, let me not misquote him. Let's say exactly what Charlie Kirk said about empathy. Charlie Kirk said, I can't stand the word empathy. Also, I think Charlie Kirk was homeschooled. So that's a whole nother issue I'm not even going to get into. But to say that you can't stand the word empathy is wild. You're just like, where did this person come from? Because all of the advancements throughout most of society include empathy for less advantaged, disadvantaged, marginalized people. TJ says cops don't have to go into the wealthy areas because they don't commit crimes. Man, that's just not true either. You know how much cocaine there is in the suburbs, bro? There's cocaine in half the houses. What are we talking about? You know how much money laundering is in the suburbs? You know how much tax fraud is in the suburbs? You know how many suburban white kids are the car thieves in their neighborhoods because nobody will suspect them? It's just not true, man. I don't know what to say to you if you don't have specific questions that you want me to ask ChatGPT, or if you're not bringing me specific facts. You're just bringing me personal anecdotes that I completely disagree with. So I don't know what to do with that. Dennis says the opposite of empathy is nihilism. Let's think about that. Nihilism basically being like, nothing matters. Um, some versions of people who believe in things like the simulation theory, or some people who are atheists that think if when you just die, you just turn into dust. Am I on the right track about nihilism, Dennis? Because I would say that the opposite of empathy is apathy, not caring. But I think that fits perfectly with nihilism. I think apathy and nihilism are basically the same type of mindset. And in my opinion, apathy and nihilism come from a lack of love, a lack of liberty, a lack of education. They are like a mild version of an illness that can turn into something really bad if we don't address it in people. Because if you believe, if you are a politician or somebody super powerful and you're a nihilist, um, these are the type of people that commit the most heinous acts in the world because they think. But it can come from religion too. People thinking that their deity wants them to do some harm against a group of people. But all of these people do not use logic. They do not use the scientific method. They do not lead with empathy. They lead with some form of fundamentalism, whether it's fundamental ignorance, period, or whether it is brainwashed ignorance coming from some form of religion, some hate group, some gang, whatever it is. Again, I said earlier in the video, always notice when somebody is trying to get you to blame another group of people in mass, to painting with a broad brush, it's called, saying, like all of the right-wing people saying, um, Democrats are violent, we're going to go to war with Democrats, this and that. Like, what? 19-1 far right political violence to left political violence. We're not the violent ones. Literally, our ideology is the only time violence is called for is in self-defense or defending another person's life. In both of those instances, be very violent. Be very violent to defend yourself, to keep your life. Be very violent to defend someone else, at risk of losing their life. And all other times, it's uncalled for because it's not even a way to punish somebody. You want to punish somebody, you put them in jail and make them talk to a therapist every day. A. Glenn Liu says the proportion of black men incarcerated isn't that they often get more severely punished. Yeah, that's true. Like, and I'll put it, we can agree on stuff, we can move past stuff, we can talk, about other subjects tangential to related to this topic. I will also ask ChatGPT as a referee anything you guys want me to ask. If you have any specific fact-based, data-based questions for me to put in ChatGPT, just let me know. I'll plug it in. We'll see what it says and we'll talk about it. Life says, love and liberty, peace and happiness to you and your beautiful family. You're a great role model for all of us. Remember, it's hard to change a person in one day from what they've been taught. Absolutely true. And that's why I don't want to make this video. But at the same time, I see people like Charlie Kirk leading, like, truth be told, I was one of these ignorant young kids, and the rhetoric of following Jesse Waters, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh when I was young led to me joining the Marine Corps, led to a lot of people enlisting in what I will say was a completely unjustified war that we were lied to about Saddam Hussein having nuclear weapons, just flat out lied to. Many people who enlisted in 2002, around the time that I did, also had their contracts completely changed by the military. Again, a whole nother topic. But that rhetoric cost some people I know their lives. Um, I'm thinking of an 18-year-old kid named Dominic Persley who signed a contract to be in legal administration. This kid was a nerd, man, but he was a patriotic dude. He wanted to be a Marine, and he was, the last of everything in boot camp. But he was going to help. He wanted to go and be a lawyer, and he was going to use the Marine Corps, to help that. They put that kid on the front line kicking indoors, and he died like 2 weeks into his first tour. And so we both listened to the same rhetoric, and I see now this cycle repeating, and young kids being led into violence that they really don't understand, they really don't want. That's another point to make, is most of these right-wing people calling for violence are the softest, most spineless. They want y'all to go fight for them. They want y'all to get mad. They want you to do something, but you won't ever see Elon Musk busting a grape in a fruit fight. You won't ever see Jesse Waters meeting me in any gym in America where we can settle, if you want to get your aggression out on a liberal, I box and wrestle and MMA for fun. That's fun to me. Jesse Waters, Sean Hannity, whoever's my age, it would have been somebody like Charlie Kirk, but I also like to debate. So it's not, we don't have to get physical, but we can get physical in a way where we shake hands as gentlemen when we're done and say, you feel better, you get some aggression out, you got to hit me a couple of times, I hit you a couple of times, we walk away, we shake hands. That is a manly way to channel aggression, a gentlemanly way, a way where both people walk away, for the most part, long term safe. Not going to cost anybody their lives to step in a boxing ring and get some aggression out. We can do that, but none of these guys calling for violence, they don't want to wrestle, they don't want to box, they don't want to pick up a gun, but they want you to. They want the kids to. And that's what I can't abide, man. That's why I just feel like I have to say something. I have to put something on the record. Dennis says there's a tie-in here with what Coach Prime's mission is with these young football players. Absolutely. I mean, that's why, my channel, Love and Liberty, was started well before I started live streaming anything for Coach Prime. But when I saw people attacking him, what a good father he is, he's trying to be the type of man that we need more of. And that's what got me into doing buff stuff, is I got to defend this good man from these liars, from these bad people who gaslight and, cast dispersions on men like Coach Prime and Shador. And they face no accountability. There's nothing that happens to them when they're wrong. Like Coach Prime was just talking about, nothing happens when you report inaccurate facts. But when they say the worst things about Shador and Coach Prime for no reasons, and I see that these are good people doing things for their community, recruiting young men to change their lives, requiring of them good character. Because you meet these young men that Coach Prime recruits, the character is through the roof. It's right there with the talent. As much of a physical specimen as Jordan Seaton is, he's even more impressive as a human being. And so, yeah, there is a tie-in with Coach Prime for president, basically. Coach Prime, and he stays apolitical, which kind of bothers me, because I feel like I have to speak up and say something, even if there's nobody watching. Coach Prime has so many people watching, and his words would be so powerful, but at the same time, I understand why he doesn't. And, I'm a big fan of I Smoke Hip Hop Live or I Smoke Hip Hop TV. I don't agree with everything DJ Bless One says, but I agree with a lot of what he says. And one thing he said back in the day was that people who look like me in Boulder need to make channels supporting Coach Prime to show people that the people saying the worst don't live here. You know, the people who live here, they're not trying to be violent. They're not trying to demonize any political party. They're not trying to hold anybody down. They're just trying to live their lives. This is a very peaceful, happy, loving, accepting town. As I think Coach Prime and Bucky and Shador and Shiloh, Seton, they've all said how welcome they feel here, how embraced by the community, because the community is over the moon to have. This community wants more diversity. However, this little mountain town became super white, and it does have a troubled early 1900s history, that I think people should look into. But this city in modern times is welcoming diversity from every ethnicity. The city does a lot to help people, and I'll leave it at that because that's a whole nother argument. But Coach Prime, being a man who wants to turn out high quality human beings, represents Boulder. It represents love and liberty. It represents the ideology of liberalism, whatever his politics are. When you want to help the disadvantaged who earn it and give them a fair shot as the people who've had advantages, that's a liberal idea. Leveling the playing field, making the starting line equal. Like, why don't we want to, like, they want to talk about DEI and competition, but like, if you're not going to acknowledge a disadvantage, you're basically saying that you need an advantage to win. That like you need that person to start 50 yards behind you because otherwise you can't win the race. Why don't we make the starting line equal for everybody? Why don't we make the bottom of society equal for everybody, and we can compete and have capitalism on top of that? The differences between these parties are highly exaggerated, and that's just something I want to say in this video, is that these people make money off dividing us. When you see an act like this and then the president is who announces that he's dead, when has that ever happened, y'all? When has somebody been assassinated and the president is the one who breaks the news that they're dead? When has that ever happened? And since then, it's been an onslaught of like riling people up for war. Like, it's not okay, man. It's very serious, and it warrants taking a break before I go full into football mode this weekend to just get on the record and say, this is not true. It's not right. It's not accurate. It's not manly. It's not alpha. It's not hard. None of these people talking about wanting to fight actually want to fight. None of these people talking about wanting to fight have seen true violence. When you have seen true violence and destruction of human bodies, you don't ever want to see it again. You don't ever want anybody to go through it. You want to protect people from it. Dennis says, I think that's why I go to the practices when they allow it, to support these kids in a new community for them. And those players and coaches have been nothing but kind and accepting to me and Bruce. That's amazing, Dennis. I didn't even know that some of the practices were open. So I'd love to come with you sometime if that's cool. But I'm also making a concerted effort to memorize all these guys' faces, their names, and their numbers for the exact same reason. I want them to know that we're behind them, that we know who they are, that we're like invested in them as people and their success. Even, you know, the Colton Hoods and the Cormani McLeans, all of the guys who've come here and transferred away, I still want to see the best for those guys. And I know you do too, because, you know, Dennis is the type of man we need more of in society. Coach Prime is the type of man we need more of in society. People who look at the youth and say, I've got to help them, not how can I use them, you know? And Charlie Kirk used those young men. He did not instill them with values that are going to serve them well in life. He infused them with irrational hate and propaganda he still did not deserve at 31 years old. You know how many people go their whole 30s being one political persuasion only to change in their 40s for the rest of their life, or vice versa? That man, everybody has time to change. Dialogue, conversations. You know, TJ may have left by now, but as you guys can see, if somebody doesn't start talking crazy, I'll debate anything with anybody, and I just want to know what the facts are. And I'll use AI as a referee. You know, it don't have to be my facts. Like TJ's bringing his facts. I'm saying I disagree. I have my facts. But hey, let's go see what a referee says. Let's see what ChatGPT or Grok or Claude, any AI you want to use, let's see what it has to say, and let's see what the facts say. Because the facts show, when you get down to everything, that economics and education and love are the great determining factors of how somebody's life is going to turn out. It's really hard for people who don't experience love in their lives to love other people. It's hard for people who experience no love in their life and a lot of trauma, or I should say it's easy for those people to be persuaded into hating people. And we have a lot of absent fathers, which, you know, Coach Prime talks about. You have absent fathers, you have mothers burning the candles at both ends, so they're stressed out, you know, just putting food on the table. They don't have time to be maybe as emotionally present. That's a dangerous situation for these young men, especially because of their testosterone. They go through puberty. There's a culture among young men of competition and being alpha and dominant and all of this stuff, which can be channeled into things like football, boxing, wrestling, lifting, sports. It can be channeled in effective ways, but if it's channeled into politics, it can become bad for so many people. And that's what we as a community have to address, is we can't let them divide us like this, y'all. Like I can tell TJ or anybody who supports Charlie Kirk that I'm not going to miss Charlie, but I would never wish what happened to Charlie on my worst enemy. It's not productive. It doesn't work. It doesn't solve anything. It's a waste of time. If you hated Charlie Kirk, he never felt or saw anything. That man's life was over, which, getting back into, I will hold every possibility in my head, could have been a liberal, could have been a conservative, it could be a conspiracy. Let's talk about that shot and how he died. It hit his carotid artery and spinal cord at the same time, which is instant kill shot or death. They say that he was wearing a bulletproof vest, which makes me want, okay, the accuracy of that shot coming from a former Marine, is it world-class sniping? No, but it is elevated shooting unless it was luck. If the person was aiming for center mass and they missed, and that's just where it hit him, then that's luck on the shooter's side. But it is also a perfection of a kill shot. To hit somebody's carotid and spinal cord at the same time, no, if there were a team of surgeons right there, he's not making that. He's not being saved. So to me, there is a more than zero chance, a more than 50-50 chance that the shooter was trained in somehow. The way that they got access, the planning involved, the escape, the fact that as far as when I started this video, they still haven't been caught. When I look at the images of the guy, I feel like he's wearing a costume. Those could be his clothes. He had on a t-shirt with like an American flag and the eagle, which, you know, lends people to think right wing, but the clothes were baggy. They didn't fit him that well. A professional would wear a costume to mislead people. What I saw under the clothes was a very wiry, strong looking man. Not like Goldberg, not like a wrestler, not like a linebacker, but like a Green Beret, like a recon Marine, like somebody who can do 20 dead hang pull-ups without thinking twice. Wide shoulders, very thin, very low body fat, narrow waist, big legs. I'm hesitating because I see a lot of things to me that make me think of somebody from the military, um, and it doesn't necessarily mean the American military. However that shot happened, that is an instantaneous kill shot. And the point of getting into all of this was, what does that solve? If you hate somebody, okay, you take his words off the air, but there's going to be 10 new Charlie Kirks that come up in his place saying the same things that made him millions of dollars, because now there's a void and people know that this information will get them sponsors and money, and they'll make a bunch of money, they'll have a career, and hey, they just won't go do live events. You're not going to stop the rhetoric by doing this, and you're not punishing somebody by just flipping the lights off. So the violence makes no sense, y'all. Whoever's trying to divide us, they have ulterior motives. And that is the point of this video. Don't be pawns for billionaires. I know most of you aren't, but to whatever extent you have any influence or any ability to speak out, please say what you can that could possibly influence some reduction of irrational hate and violence instead of pumping it up. Whatever influence you can play on reducing the pressure, we need everybody to do that. And that was the point of this video. Guys, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that this live stream got completely messed up. When you're doing a live stream, YouTube wants you to prepare it ahead of time and say, here's the title, here are the tags, this is the audience for this video. People searching for Charlie Kirk, I want them to see this video. Don't necessarily show this to my audience. It's not necessarily what they're interested in. I set all of that up. I started the stream here. I got an error. The stream went away and I couldn't get it back. And so I have to start a live stream from scratch, and YouTube hates that. They're like, unless you're in the middle of something very busy, then they'll say, oh yeah, people probably want to watch this. You're around a lot of, and they can tell because they know that you have YouTube on their phone, and YouTube can look on the back end and see all of the other people in this park who have the YouTube app open on their phone right now. And it will probably suggest this video to them because, again, the way the algorithm works is a different video. But suffice to say, this video is being shown to people that I didn't intend it to necessarily go out to, but I wanted to make the video because this is the time that I had to do it. And I just wanted to say, whoever is trying to increase the violence, they're wrong. And liberals are not the party of violence. I've got the facts on ChatGPT. Documented political violence is 19-1 right wing to left wing. And I'm not trying to say the right wing is the party of political violence. The stats say for every one left political violence, there's 19 right wings. I'm trying to say all of these people committing violence have been neglected in some way that set them up to be brainwashed, because there is no logic. There's no logic in the violence, in sniping, so turning the lights out immediately. He never knew what happened. There's going to be 10 more people who fill his place. You did nothing but make it bad for everyone. And at the same time, it's okay if you say there is no place for violence and what happened to Charlie should not happen to anyone, not even our worst enemies. And I can still say I'm not going to miss him because he was a bad person. I already read the quotes in this video, all the evil things he said on a daily basis, he made millions of dollars off of. And I've seen debates with him where, like, sometimes I just wonder, have people just not heard a good counter argument for this hate yet? But I heard so many intelligent people debate Charlie, and he's one of the people like Donald Trump who I would say he doubles and triples down on hate and lying, because they see how much money they can make off of it, and they play to their base. And, you know, it's like a high school football team to them. They're never going to cheer against the home team. Never. No matter what the home team does, they're always going to be a homer. And when it comes to innocent people's lives, we can't be that way, y'all. We can't. It's dangerous. And nobody's safe. That little Orem town in Utah is more chill than Boulder, Colorado. And we've had shootings in Boulder. You know, nowhere in America is safe. And we men and women in society who take notes from Coach Prime and see what a good job he does being a role model and a leader in his community, instead of just looking at Coach Prime and praising him, let's emulate him. Let's try to be like that in our own little ways, in our own little spheres of influence. Let's try to be our own little versions of a man who cares about his community, who cares about the youth, and who is open for dialogue. As Coach Prime says so many times, I got time today. You know, have time in your life for these discussions. And it doesn't have to be all the time, because when I'm watching the Buffs play tomorrow, I'm going to put all this on the back burner, and I'm not going to feel guilty, because I will come back to it. I will participate in my community. I will participate in my democracy. And sometimes I will need a break, and I will go and just indulge in recreation, you know, or pure entertainment. And I will put all of this at the back of my mind. Let's look at a few more comments, and then we're going to get out of here, guys. I think we've said everything that I wanted to say today. A. Glenn Liu says TJ should also familiarize himself with the Dred Scott case. I was in Vietnam. The proportion of black men, 45% to white men fighting in 69, 11.1% of the population was black. So 11% of the US population represented 45% of the soldiers in Vietnam. Absolutely poignant and worth mentioning. And again, it's more proof that we can't, anybody trying to demonize people based on intrinsic traits, you can just know immediately that they're ignorant. Like, you don't need to listen to anything else that they say. We know that violence comes from poverty, desperation, and a lack of love. And we know how to fix those things, but we have to care about kids that are not our own to fix it, because the kids that is happening to are kids who have been neglected by their parents or their family, or their parents or their family brainwashed them to hate. Hate is a learned trait. This has been proven in behavioral science ad nauseum, that you must teach a child to hate. It does not happen naturally. Now, that's not like a kid's not naturally going to hate a bully who punches them in the nose every day. No, that's saying that until they have a reason, they're not just going to look at a group of people and be like, I don't like them. Those people are this, those people are that. Because all people are everything. All people are everything. We all have the potential for the full range of humanity. And the way that we're raised, the way that we're cared for, the education that we're exposed to has so much to do with how we turn out. I grew up one of these right-wing Christian fundamentalists, and the Marine Corps changed me. The Marine Corps changes some people from liberal to conservatives. So it doesn't even work, you know, the same way in every system, but a conservative can become a liberal can become a conservative. There is humanity in all of us, and we've got to find the common ground. Like, I really believe it's the billionaires versus the working class. I will debate that till my end. I know a lot of people understand that argument and agree with it, but if enough Americans understood it, you would never have somebody like Donald Trump elected. It just wouldn't happen. So there are a ton of people who don't understand that it is the billionaires versus the working class. And it's not even really the billionaires at this point. It's the tens of billions, hundreds of billionaires. It's the billionaires, boss billionaires, the dynastical families, the dynastical corporations control us in a way that it can't be sustained. One way or the other, it can't last. That's a topic for another day. Life says we need more like Liberty and Dennis. It is unbelievably hard to fit. Your interaction with those kids from Florida was unbelievably inspiring. Much love to you. So early on in the channel, It was nighttime. Shador said that he was going to Illegal Pete's to get a burrito. I went down to Illegal Pete's to see if we could see Shador standing out there with the camera and the gimbal. You know, old man being on campus, whatever. I'm not old, but I'm old to these college kids. And these kids came out of Illegal Pete, and they were definitely intoxicated and looked to be underage. Wasn't paying attention to them, but they started going in on me about live streaming. I mean, man, these kids, again, you're not going to offend me having been a Marine growing up in the Southeast, playing every sport. Like, you can't offend me. But man, these kids were trying their best. And when you've been through real things, stuff like that, it doesn't even affect you because you're like, I don't want anything bad to happen to these kids. Like, at one point, kids swatted my phone off the gimbal, so I put it in my back pocket, and it was like, all right, if we're gonna do this, I mean, you're not gonna hit me, bro. It's not gonna happen. And these little kids were watching, and I was like, hey, you guys record this because I don't want this. I got no beef with these kids. But I remember being that age, and I have friends who were those kind of people who looked to kind of egg people into fights when they would get drunk. And so you live and you learn and you see that behavior, and you just want to pass on to the kids that, hey, number one, if you really want to do this, there's boxing gyms and MMA gyms in town. We can put on some gloves and some headgear, have a referee, and we can go at it. At one point I offered that. I was like, we can go to a boxing gym and box if you just want to get some aggression out. I'm not going to fight you in the street because you fall and you hit your head. You guys know how it goes. And especially you fall, you hit your head, you're 18 and I'm a former Marine. Nah, man. And why? I don't want anything bad for you. You can say whatever you want for me. And I still say, when people are happy, when people are truly happy, they look at every single person, even their enemy, and they say, man, if that person could be as happy as me, they wouldn't feel that way. If Donald Trump felt the joy in his soul that I feel, he wouldn't hate so many people. He could be president of the United States, and I know I have a better life than him. I know I have a better life than Elon Musk because I don't hate anybody. I don't wish ill on anybody. And just going back to those Florida kids, the kid ended up calling me months later and was like, hey, man, one of my friends told me this video was up. I'm really embarrassed. I was drunk. Basically, I don't want this video to follow me. I didn't mean it. Will you take it down? I was like, yeah, dude, absolutely. I'll take the video down. It wasn't a big deal, and I told him in this email where he contacted me, like, bro, I just want everybody to be happy enough that they don't, if you want to fight for fun as a sport, because that's how you get, that's how you get yourself going, more power to you. But that's two people coming into a gym, shaking hands, equal type of abilities, somebody there to referee, or, you just have mutual respect. That's fine. Like, fighting sports are cool. People should know how to defend themselves. People should be like, I was comfortable that whole time. I'm like, I know I'm not going to get hurt. I mean, you never know what somebody has in their pocket. I should say that. Any person on the street, let me tell you guys a story about this. One of my friends, a recon Marine, Special Forces Marine, was home in Washington, D.C. from his third combat tour in Afghanistan. He was in Washington, D.C., and he was blowing off steam. You get, you save up a lot of pay when you're overseas. So you come home, you blow off steam, you spend a lot of money, this and that. He was going out, taking his friends downtown. They were drinking. They talked some mess to these kids in a Washington, D.C. bar. Had a little confrontation. Bouncers threw the other kids out, let the Marines stay. They're spending a bunch of money. They're Marines. They've coming back from Afghanistan. Let's let them have their night. So they go on with their night like nothing happened. Those kids who got kicked out of the bar did not go on with their night like nothing happened. They walked down the street where they knew that my buddy and his friends would have to pass when they left. And when they left that bar at 2 a.m. in the morning, one of them stepped out in front of my buddy. Again, 6'3", 250 jacked. recon Marine, young kid, 18 years old, steps out in front of him in the street, like, let's go, you know? And my buddy's like, and he's drunk, and he's like, what? And before he could say anything to him, the other kid stabs him in the back with a 6-inch blade, almost touched his heart all the way through. They both run, they both leave. Multi-tour recon Marine, one of the best trained fighters I know, situational awareness, combat experience, bleeding out in the street of Washington, D.C. You never, ever, ever know. So again, it's just never worth it. And when you know that, you want to de-escalate, and you want the best for somebody who, if somebody feels like they want to do harm for you, like that person's unwell, they need help, they need love. You know, that doesn't mean you let yourself be a victim. Like, of course not. You need to know how to defend yourself. But when I said earlier, I knew I wasn't going to get hurt because I know how to take care of myself. That's not totally true. In the back of my mind, I'm looking at their hands, I'm looking at their waistbands, because he had some friends that were pacing around me like they wanted to jump me. They wanted to play the knockout game. They wanted to get my back up against a wall. They were trying for a while to basically pin me in, and I didn't let them, and I wasn't worried about it coming to fight, but I'm worried about hitting some kid and then falling and hitting their head and not waking up. And the point of all this, guys, is the violence is unnecessary. If you know how to fight, if you've seen real violence, you know better than anybody that it's not for the public. It's not for bullying. It's for defending yourself or somebody else who's being hurt. Like, period. And then it's good to know. But in every other instance, it's unproductive. It's a shame. But it was good that kid ended up contacting me, and because I never expected, especially with my interaction with him that night. In my head, I've known some lost causes in my life, in the sense of, like, you know, that Kanye song, Can't Tell Me Nothing. I've known a lot of can't tell me nothing type dudes who like to fight. And I thought this was, you know, one of those guys. But it just goes to show you, man, you can catch anybody on the wrong night, and on the next day they could apologize to you. So why do something you can't take back? Why? What? It's so cliche, but what does the violence solve? It solves nothing. The violence against Charlie, I think Charlie was an evil person. Violence solves nothing. It didn't do anything. It hurt. If it was a liberal, they hurt liberals by doing that. If it was a conservative, they hurt conservatives by doing that. If it was a conspiracy, then it's a whole nother video of wildness. But I just find it so weird that the president announced that he was dead. That, when has that ever happened in our lifetimes? And the, like, media barrage of right-wing people calling for war against Democrats after it happened. It was like it was a scripted media push. And it's not that I believe that. It's just that all three are possibilities, and they're all plausible. And until the evidence comes in, we don't know. And so we can say it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. This is why this would make sense, why it would make sense that it was a liberal, why it would make sense that it was a conservative, why it would make sense that it was a conspiracy, without buying into any of them. And we need to teach kids, don't buy into rhetoric. Listen to rhetoric. Listen to the opposite. Listen to the middle. Take it in. Synthesize it with the golden rule. Because remember, the two things that every single human on earth wants. Every human on earth wants love. Every human on earth wants liberty. These are the two things we all have in common. And when we can start there, that no matter who you are, I know you want love. I don't have to met you. It could be TJ, it could be Dennis, it could be anybody that's been in our chat. It could be Coach Prime, it could be Bucky, it could be Shador. You all want love, and you all want liberty. You all want to be able to do your own thing without somebody else telling you that you can't, as long as what you're doing is not hurting anybody. We all want love. We all want liberty. Every human on planet Earth, that's where we go to find our baseline. And we teach kids that anybody trying to hide that, what we all have in common, anybody trying to put the magnifying glass on what makes us different, they have ulterior motives. And you instantly have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. All right, guys, I think we're going to call it a stream. I think I've said everything here tonight that I wanted to say. I appreciate you for hanging out with me. And we may or may not see you guys tomorrow. But regardless, Sco Buffs. Let's get a win down in Houston. And let's all keep in mind that we can switch modes from politics to football to leisure time to family time. We can do multiple things in life. We can be well-rounded people. We don't have to be somebody who's like, oh, I only pay attention to sports, I don't get into politics, or oh, I'm only into politics or science, I don't get into sports. It's okay to have diverse interests. It's okay to talk about different things on different days. It's okay to put football on the back burner when we have this to talk about. It's okay to put this on the back burner when we're focused on football tomorrow. So, again, reminding you guys about love and liberty, the two things all people want. That's the message I'm going to end with. Much love, much liberty, peace, unity, and prosperity wherever you are. Peace.